This program was first broadcast on Canterbury's access media station, Plains FM, and was made with the assistance of New Zealand On Air.
Now it's time for Spiritual Learning with Priestess Lily.
Welcome to my radio show, Priestess Lily, Sacred Heart Healer, Space Holder, and Spiritual Life Coach. Welcome. How are we all today? I created this radio show podcast to help assist humanity rise the consciousness through connection and holding space for thought-activating conversations with heart-centered leaders, wisdom keepers, and divine humans expanding into their authenticity and soul purpose. To allow you, as the listener, to really be activated, to take brave action, and allow yourself to witness parts of yourself that you may never have acknowledged before, and reclaim parts of yourself that you have forgotten. Which brings me to my phenomenal, amazing, divine human today, Andrea Westbrook. Andrea is a mindset and confident coach whose mission is to help fat, curvy, or plus-size women whose bodies don't fit society's notion of ideal, to befriend their fears so that they can call in their confidence, supercharge their self-belief, and confidently live the life of their dreams. As a plus-size woman, Andrea has overcome years of weight stigma, fat phobia, and low self-belief to move into her full potential and achieve her career and life goals. Andrea couples her personal experience with her nurturing and encouraging style to help her clients live the life of their dreams. Welcome, Andrea. Welcome.
Thank you, Lily. So nice to be here.
Oh, I've been so excited about your interview ever since the Biker Awards, because I was like, oh, there's that lady and I need to connect with her. And so when you said hell yes, I was like, I can't wait to have such a deep conversation about the work that you bring into the world and how you really help women. And when I went on your webpage, and the fact that you just call it and say the word fat, I was just like, holy shit, she's speaking my language and everything that we've been told we can't talk about.
Amazing. I love the word fat because it always gets some sort of reaction out of people, whether it's positive or negative or somewhere in between.
Yeah, and I think it's a word that, you know, us as females very much, we already know the conditioning of fat, like when we're 6 or 7, you know, through our parents. And
yeah, absolutely. The word fat as a word has really been demonized by society. And from, like you said, from a young age, it really is, we're taught that it's the worst possible thing you can be as a woman. And I think to an extent men are starting to receive that conditioning as well, but definitely for centuries it's been something that women should avoid at all costs.
And this is what I love about your work, because it's really about breaking down those barriers and that conditioning. So how did you know that this was your work? What's your journey? What's your story, sister?
Sure. I love sharing my story, so thank you for asking. So all of my career, I worked in corporate HR and recruitment. and had a great career there, which taught me a lot about working with people. But a few years ago, when my mum passed, I went through that, that struggle, I guess, that questioning, that conversation with myself for, I don't want to do this forever. I don't want to be in this sort of capitalist grind of Monday to Friday, 8 till 6, being told when I could have holidays and things like that. And not having time to do the things that really, lit my soul on fire, or having to fit that all around the other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just started trying different things. I didn't know what the answer was, but I was quite into my yoga practice then. So I was like, okay, I'm going to explore this further. Did yoga teacher training. So that opened me up a little bit. And then through that, I started exploring essential oils. And that's when I started becoming more aware, I guess, of energy as a force, as a quantity. And I kind of parked those two things. So I thought, neither of them are quite it. And then I was really fortunate in that with my work, I had the opportunity to go and live in Asia for 3 months. So I packed up, left the husband here, left him looking after the animals, and I took myself off. And the only thing I really had to worry about was work and looking after my team for that period of time. So all of that extra time that I had, because I lived in a hotel, so there was no housework. I didn't have to cook if I didn't want to. Like, it was just a beautiful time to really focus on myself. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I did. I read loads. I went for loads of massages and just really soaked in whatever it was I needed. Part of that was listening to lots of different podcasts. And I was walking to work one day with podcasts in my ears, and it hit me like a lightning bolt. This is what I do every day. I coach people every day but usually with a career focus. And I thought, I can do this. And this is when I did that, kind of cracked the door open. I started exploring. I found Beautiful You Coaching Academy, which, every day I think in some way that course changed my life. Mm-hmm. When I started, I was going to work with corporate women because that's what I was. That's who I knew, women in male-dominated industries. That's who I understood. But as I started working through the course, I realised that group kind of felt flat to me. There's already a lot of people working in that space, and it really didn't make me feel excited or passionate. And at the same time, Biker introduces a lot of concepts around social justice. Mm-hmm. And I think there was an article shared in one of the Facebook groups around how body size is the last frontier of inclusion and diversity. Now, as I read this article, I thought, oh, holy crap, this journalist just put everything I've felt throughout my career into words that I hadn't been able to say before. And it was then that I knew who I had to work with, that it was fat, curvy and plus size women, and that I had to help them overcome the really unique mindset challenges and beliefs that we have about our bodies and not being good enough so that we can live the life that we deserve. So that's really how that's my journey in a nutshell.
Oh my God, I love that. I really love that because I know, and I've also been through Biker, and that's how we've connected. When you're doing that course halfway through and you think you know what you do, you think you've got your knitting.
You think
you got your knitting, and then all of a sudden it's that cracking, and it's like, oh, hang on, maybe that's not it. Maybe that's not what I'm here to do. And it's a real realization, isn't it? When you actually have that light bulb of who you're here to serve and how you're actually here to embody more of your actual knowing, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And it can feel a little bit scary. So, of course, I looked around for assurance to people that are new and my buddy Mel. And when that's reflected back to you, just like, this is the path I have to go. That after that, there was no choice to go any other way.
Mm-hmm. And so out of that, working with fat, curvy, plus size women, there must be, when you're working with those women and also your own realization, as like me, just us having that brief conversation for 5 minutes before we even started. The word fat, we've learned at such a young age how it impacts us today.
Yeah.
How does that unravel for the women that come and work with you?
Do you mean like how they feel about the word fat?
How they feel about the word fat, and the way that society, their parents, their beliefs have all shaped them into feeling the way that they feel.
Yeah, yeah. So what we work on with my clients is really starting to separate their sense of self and who they are and their strengths from their body, because essentially your body is just a vessel.
Mm-hmm.
It has no impact on who you are as a person. It has no impact on your energy, what's in your heart, if you're kind, if you're mean, if you're an introvert or extrovert. When you boil it down to it, we are so much more than our bodies, and our gifts are really what's inside us. So that's what I really work on with my clients to unpack, is to get out of their head all of these thoughts that society's told us, that because we're fat, we're not good enough and we don't deserve these things, or we deserve to be treated badly, but to really connect into their body and to their internal sense of self-worth. That's where the real strength is.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, I know that just for myself, my inner critic,
yeah,
she can be a bitch.
Oh, yeah. So can mine. Yeah, absolutely.
She can be a bitch. So, and I think that's everyone listening to this podcast will be like, hell yeah. How do we tame her? Like, how do we check out and tell her to shut up and go sit in the corner?
Yeah. I think the first step to taming your inner critic is actually understanding what it is. Because it's this really, a lot of us just know it as this really strong voice, like a broken record in our head, and it might sound like someone we knew when we were a kid, or it's just mistakes that we've made just pushing on us all the time, and it can be really hard to shake. But what your inner critic is your brain's way of keeping you safe.
Mm-hmm.
And when you start to and it can be keeping you safe from a wide myriad of fears. And I usually link it back to, prehistoric times when being part of the group was essential for your physical survival. Your brain was there to stop you from doing things that were going to risk you being ostracized. So we don't have, in today's modern society, and I'll say in most societies, we don't have that reliance on the group for our essential physical survival. We can get food, shelter, oxygen, the things we need to physically survive pretty easily, but we still need that deep connection to our group.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we still have the inner critic now. So while that reliance on the group now is not imperative, we've still inherited that inner critic. So it's going to be there always to keep us survive. So once we start to understand that and understand what the inner critic's job is, then we can start to unpack, well, how can I tame it? I know it's there to keep me safe. My physical survival is not actually in jeopardy now, or is it? Because you might need to just check in and say, okay, no, it's not. I know, and then this is where I start to use my tools, like just talking to my inner critic silently. I have a nickname for mine, and I encourage everyone else to do the same, and it's something that I can't possibly take seriously. I call mine Gertrude, because when I say Gertrude, I can't help but smile, and this is actually like a double tip, and when you smile, you actually break that connection into your brain, and you start triggering the happiness hormones, which disconnect your inner critic. But also, you can't take it seriously, and you're like, I've heard people call them Frank, Steve, some call them Voldemort, and when you start talking to it like that, you can't take it seriously, and you can start to replace that inner critic with, okay, Gertrude, I'm not going to listen to you today. I know you're just keeping me safe, but this is the path that I'm going to take, because in my gut, and that's another step, is tapping into your heart and your gut. I know that this is true for me and I need to follow this path.
Yeah, I know. And I mean, that's when when you connect to and have an understanding around your inner critic and your intuition, you're actually that's when the whole world can light up.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And you start to realize how much your inner critic has been holding you back. And it is a bit like a muscle. The more you tame it, the more you can start to switch it off. Yeah,
I know, like for me, and this is what I do talk to about with a lot of my clients, like when they start to feel anxiety in their body, I'm like, that is your body, that's your superpower.
Yes.
Because something in your life, something isn't aligned with where you're heading or in life. That's an opportunity to start working with it and start to move and to start, because that's how I've always looked at it. Like, I get anxious just like everyone else.
Same.
That causes me to overeat, and chocolate's my weapon.
Love it.
But when I stop and go away and meditate or feel into something, it's, quite often it is, I'm anxious because I'm actually fearful that I need to change something. Or, when they first said, do you want a radio show, Lily? I was so anxious. But it was like, that's actually my next step. You've been wanting this, Lily. That's actually your next step. You need to get over yourself.
Yeah, I agree, Lily, that your body will start to tell you when your heart and head aren't aligning, and it will tell you in mysterious ways. So it is taking that moment to take a deep breath, put your hand on your heart and really ask what you need, or what is your body trying to say. And that action of putting your hand on your heart helps you to get out of your head and into your body. Yeah.
Totally. So I'm quite curious. I know that many women listening to, and many men listening to this podcast will, like, we're just coming out of obviously 2 years of being fearful around COVID, and people are possibly over those 2 years have got put on weight through eating, through lockdowns. Joy of lockdowns and actually eating or emotionally eating. Like, they've just turned up to the fridge. What's in the fridge?
Absolutely.
Those people, what would you say for them? Because this is a real, I think any time in your life, this can be an actual, we overeat through grief, we overeat through a number of different reasons.
Boredom, lack of stimulation, whole range of different things. Well, I would say this to anyone who's gained weight at any time in their lives. It's normal. Like, it is so normal. It is just part of being a human, and that is how our body works. And the whole weight, I don't want to call it a cycle, but the whole action of gaining weight is so much more complex than just what you eat or energy in and energy out. It's like I mentioned, it can be stress. It can be your socioeconomic, impacted by your socioeconomic situation, by your genetics, by what's going on in the world. It is so complex that it is, but we've been taught it's about energy in, energy out. And so that means you've got control over it. But there are so many factors involved in weight that we actually don't have a lot of control over it. So I would say it's normal. Be kind to yourself and just keep doing what you need to do to feel good in yourself.
And I think that's really important, because obviously we're conditioned at such a young girl, as a young girl, that we must look like this, or we must show
Yeah.
up like this, or we can't
Yeah.
eat that. And I see it really more now, not
Yeah.
so much when I was little, because it probably impacted me, but we did when I was young, probably like you, we didn't have social media and reality TV. Like, it was quite more classic, shows, or it wasn't out there in our faces much.
Yeah.
How do we break down some of that conditioning? Well, that's a big question.
It is a big question. And I do actually want to go back to your comment about not being impacted as much. But I actually, to a certain extent, disagree with that.
Okay.
Because I know for myself, I went on my first diet when I was 11.
Mm-hmm.
I have friends that went on theirs when they were 7. So friends in my age group.
Wow.
So I absolutely think the pressure was there. I think, to your point, it's definitely more in your face now because we're on our phones and we've got all of that influencer culture and that type of thing. But, I absolutely think it has been around for decades, if not centuries, that pressure to be thin. I think what we've got to – well, the first thing I say to people is mix up your social media feed. Stop following anyone that makes you feel like crap for a start or triggers that comparisonitis. That's the first thing to do. But we as the matriarchs, the mothers, even if you're not a biological mother, we have a role now to change the messages that the young girls are receiving now. So a couple of weeks ago, I was with my little niece who's 7, and she was telling me she hates being chubby. Why am I so chubby? And she's not chubby at all. And I just kept telling her, it doesn't matter. You're so beautiful. Like, look at your beautiful rosy cheeks, and just really reinforcing those messages and also trying to steer the conversation away so much from looks. Mm-hmm. You're not so, your body might be bigger than others, but look, you're so good at gymnastics, or you're reading that book really well, and just really starting to get them talking and seeing other strengths and goodness within themselves. And that's our job as, I guess, the mavens of this society. We need to help lift them up.
And I think what you just said, oh my God, there's so much deliciousness and all of that. Stop following the people that trigger you.
Yeah.
That is like the gem. Yeah. Like, why do we keep following?
Yeah.
The Kardashians, the people that keep us on the wagon of self-criticizing ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely, Lily. And I heard a really good analogy of it a couple of months ago now. I wish I could really remember where I got it from so I could reference them. But you know how there's a real tendency, and I'm working on breaking this myself, to get on social media almost as soon as I wake up in the morning to see who's messaged me, what's happening, what have I missed overnight? Nothing. But the analogy I heard was, and I don't do it in my bedroom, but I know a lot of people do, is imagine if those people were in your bedroom physically when you woke up every morning, because that's essentially what you're doing, telling your brain. So imagine if Kim and Chloe and Kylie were all there first thing in the morning when you wake up. You'd feel really shit about yourself, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
And you wouldn't be inviting them in personally. So why are we inviting them in energetically through our phones?
And I think
that was a real light bulb moment for me. Like, yep, I've got to stop doing this until later in the day.
And I think what you've just shared, why are we inviting them in energetically?
Yeah.
This is what people don't understand about energy. When we invite someone in energetically, we're actually inviting them back into our headspace, back into our aura fields, back into our, when we're not watching it, not consuming it, it's nowhere around us. Yeah. It's not having an influence on us. It's not, we're not into the clickbait.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
We've got no comparison going on. We've got no fear. We've got no fat shame. We're just doing our thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And so even if you're doing it on social media, you're inviting them in energetically. Even if you're watching it on TV, it's in your sphere. You're inviting it in.
Yeah. I hope every woman listens to that. I hope everyone hears that message, because that there in itself is so powerful. So my next question, because I'm curious to know, why do you think women fat shame other women? You know, is it the sister wound? Or
yeah, I think it is. My take on it is weight stigma affects everyone, whether you're fat, slim, skinny, muscly, it affects everyone. It's just such an entrenched part of our culture. And as a result, all of us have an internalized fat phobia, even fat people. So I know, and I've been guilty of this too, I'm going to be really transparent here. Before I started this journey, I would shame other fat people and I would compare myself to them. Am I as fat as them? And until I learned what I was doing and started to unpack that, I didn't realize that that was my internalized fat phobia and that I'd been conditioned to do that by society. So, I mean, I think it's a really simple answer to say we've been conditioned by society. We've got the sister wound to pit ourselves against each other because the patriarchy know that together we are so much stronger. It's part of that. But also it's our internalized fat phobia. And I want people to know that because it's so strong, you can't help but have that. And I want people to be able to forgive themselves for that. But once you know it, then it's your duty to society and the sisterhood to start to unpack it and to do better.
Oh my God, I think that there's so many spaces that we don't actually have these conversations.
Yeah, a lot of spaces.
And just your friendship groups.
Yeah.
With your friends. Yeah. The same conversations just as a family.
Yeah.
Like we're so scared to actually hold space and actually really dig deep and have these conversations. I interviewed my sister a couple of podcasts ago, and my sister is a professional cricket player, was a professional cricket player.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Years. And, she said something in that podcast that I actually didn't even bloody realize. She said to me, or she might have said it afterwards, but she was like, I was very much obsessed through the role that I had. I was and my sister wasn't, I wouldn't have thought she was fat. Like I wouldn't have thought she saw herself as fat. Yeah. She said, I was very much calorie in, output, output. And when she said that, for me, I realized just in that moment, because we were brought up all about food. Our family's all about food, like home cooking, caterers. It's all, food's what we nourish and how we share our love, and nothing's off limits. I didn't realize, how much she restricted herself actually in her eating, when I thought about it on Christmas Day, or because that's obviously in the real professional space of cricket, and like how much she had stopped consuming the food that actually lit her up. And there was a conversation, like obviously she's 20 years on. Yeah. But that was her conditioning. That was her, and I didn't realize how much that actually impacted her until 20 years on.
Yeah. It's very powerful, isn't it?
And I think that, I feel and I know that we need to really, the reason why I wanted to get you on, because this is such an important conversation, because if we're to heal ourselves as women and our own fat shame and our own inner critic, we have to do that work in order for us to help heal, the maidens and the
Absolutely.
younger children that are still coming through.
Yeah. We need to be able to recognise that that trauma, but also that behaviour in ourselves, so that we can recognise it and share our stories, because that's where the power is. And sharing, I'm like you, that this is what you can do to step more into your power too, to heal and to help heal the generation behind you.
And I suppose when we are watching, you know, we have so many influences in life, i.e. programs, TVs, media, everything, you know, we don't have plus size models. Not really.
Not really, no.
Let's just be clear. You know, there's a few people out there just in the New Zealand world, that, like Augustine and that are New Zealand designers that are trying to, you know, have plus size models or different cultures, but it's not really.
No, it's not
it's
really.
Just sticking plaster. It's just like to like look good. You know, we do it just to look good, but it's not real.
No, well, not yet. I think that
not yet.
We're going through. There is some people are trying to change, and I think. But this conversation is really good because, again, it's bringing to light some of the not great behaviour. Like I was reading an article the other day around some straight size models have had padding made so that they can strap it to themselves and then also double as a plus size model. Also within the plus size model world, there is an ideal body type, and it's not the size 26 or size 28, unfortunately, currently. You've still got to meet a certain look, and usually around it's a size 14 to 16. So there is still a lot of work to do, but I love that we're having more and more having this conversation and shining a light on, like I said, some of the practices that are going on, because only once we know it and consumers start asking for companies to do better, then they'll change.
And, you know, my mother is curvy. She's possibly 25, you know, 24 to 28. I remember size. And I remember as and she always has been. And I remember as a young girl, could never buy clothing where we live. She could never buy clothing from, you know, the normal retailers. We used to have to come to Christchurch and go to a special shop for mum to buy clothing. And then, you know, it would be an hour ordeal because the reality was my mum was so uncomfortable. And even when she did find something nice and we'd go, Mum, that's really nice, you should buy that. And this is me and my sister as little kids. Mum, you should buy that. You look so pretty. She wouldn't spend the money on herself. And it was just heartbreaking as a young kid to watch. And so fat shame and everything that we're talking about, you know, even so I'm a size 14 to 16 and I waver between. I'm never going to be a size 10. I like my food too. I like my food too much. The reality is I grew up in that environment. I might not have experienced some of the wounds that we're talking about, but I saw it every day in my own mother.
So, and you would have what really sings out to me there is she had been conditioned to have really low self-worth. So that's what you would have observed. And even now, when we go to buy mum presents, like we buy her vouchers normally because we always buy clothing vouchers and we, you know, send them down to her. You know, she doesn't spend them. And that is big stuff to unpack because I can really relate. I grew up in Tasmania in the 80s and 90s and similar situation. Now, I was probably between a 16 to a 20 and you couldn't get nice clothes in those sizes that fitted. A lot of times I had to shop at men's shops. I would say it's only in the last 10 to 15 years that it's really started to change. But what that does to a person is tells you that you're not worthy of having nice stuff.
Mm.
And I still struggle, and I can really relate to your mom. I still struggle now. If I see something nice and it fits and it looks good, I still struggle with, am I worth it? Should I buy it? Should I spend that money?
And and I'm probably the same now for me. Just even through this conversation, I'm realizing I struggle to spend $200 or $300 on a skirt or a dress for me, I'd want to justify. Like 4 years ago, I was horrific at that. Now, probably not so much because you know what? I've worked so bloody hard, I so deserve that. That was possibly some of the conditioning that I was still carrying, that I was actually carrying.
Yeah, absolutely. You would have observed that and mirrored that behaviour from your mum.
And even as we're having this conversation, I'm realising, that's probably why I hate bra shopping. Can't stand the bloody thing. Because it's that whole feeling of standing there vulnerable while they're trying to, and I'm not thin, and I'm not, I'm in between. So I can only imagine how people really feel with this and have empathy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the most important place to start, is with the empathy.
And you know what? We as females are subconsciously, every time we probably get out of our car, we are judging someone for something.
We're judging and comparing ourselves. Trying to figure out where we all fit in the pecking order.
And we've got to stop it. We've got to stop it. It's fascinating because these are the conversations that matter.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree.
And, we live in a world that's patriarchal. It is patriarchal. And that is breaking down. That's breaking down right now. And so what would be your ideal? Where do you see your work really transforming into? Like, conversation-wise, what do you really want to change?
Oh,
if we had a wand and we could just do some magic.
Look, my first go-to is, I would really love all women, especially fat, curvy and plus size women, to know that they are so much more than their size, and their self-worth is connected to who they are in their heart, not their size. That's my first go-to. But also saying that, as we were saying before, I feel like I'm going through a massive change at the moment too. So I think there might be something bigger out there, but I'm just sitting and sort of exploring to see what that is at the moment. But I still think my first vision is pretty damn good and exciting too.
Have you ever thought about, just throwing this out here because this is what's just dropping in, have you ever thought about working with younger children?
I haven't, no. But funny you say that. A friend has asked me to do a session with her young daughter tomorrow.
I think you're going to do workshops for children.
Okay.
Just
okay.
Just chucking that in. Not that you haven't got enough to do. Enough in the world and sort out.
I'll sit with that one and see what comes back. Yeah.
So these beautiful women that are listening to this, what is the take-home note that you really want them to take home today, that you really want them to sit with?
I would really want them to explore, where are they telling themselves, or where are you telling yourself you need to put your life on hold until you're a certain size?
Oh, how many times have I told myself that?
Yeah.
As soon as you said that, you know what popped into my head?
What?
I'll buy that dress.
Yes.
I'll buy that dress when I get to that size.
Yes.
And the other thing that popped into my head,
yes,
you said that, was I need to look, about losing weight to get married.
Oh, yes, yes. That's a big one. I hear a lot. I'll start dating when I've lost weight. Yeah.
And, it's like I always say, we're putting our life on hold and we're just coexisting.
Exactly.
We're coexisting on the treadmill when we're actually here to live and we're meant to be in co-creation.
That's right. And when we're putting our lives on hold. So we're not only denying ourselves and telling ourselves we're not worthy of a full and vibrant life, but we're telling the other people around us that too. So, it's not a great energy to be putting out in the world.
No, it's not, because everything is energy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, sister, 3 sacred shares.
Yes.
And I always ask every one of my clients these. So what is one thing right now you wish you could change in the collective?
I wish we could ditch diet culture. Stop diet talk. Stop talking about weight loss. I just want to lose that from the whole conversation. I want to ban diet ads and just get rid of that whole thing. It's just a big, massive distraction from what's really going on.
Oh, I love that. I absolutely love that. Oh my God, that's amazing. What advice would you give your 5-year-old self?
Oh, that was tougher, but I would just say you are so loved. Even when you think you're not, you absolutely are, more than you know.
I love that. And last question is, what do you do for yourself around sacred rituals and practice to connect to you?
Well, I have really been working hard on this, particularly the last few weeks, because I think in owning my own business, I was heading for a bit of burnout and I wasn't really connecting into my spiritual side. So what I've implemented now is what I call my sacred morning. I make myself a coffee as soon as I get up, feed the cats, need to get that distraction. Then I meditate. I'll pull myself an oracle card, I'll journal, and then I'll just ask myself, what do I need? Do I need to go and sit under the trees for a while? Do I need to go for a walk? Do I need to jump in the pool? And just really connect in to what I need.
I love that.
Yeah. And then I was just going to say, try and create spaces throughout the day to do that as well.
Yeah, that's what I do too. Because I think it's really important right now to do that, as the collective energy is very getting loud. I think it's really important to take, where for me it used to be in half an hour to an hour practice in the mornings. Now it's just slotted out throughout the day.
Yeah. And what I've found is it's getting longer, that space. Like I used to try and just do 10 minutes. Now I'm like, I love it so much. It's getting longer. So that's really beautiful.
I love that. So how do the beautiful people listening to this podcast, how do they find you? How do they connect with you? How do they get some coaching from you, attend a workshop?
Yeah. Well, I have all the information on my website about coaching and workshops and events that I run. So my website is www.andreawestbrook.com.au. I love Instagram, good or bad. And my Instagram handle is Andrea Westbrook Coaching. So you can find me there as well.
Awesome. We'll put those links up on the page. Thank
Fabulous.
you, Andrea, for such a powerful conversation that I feel is so needed. And, the journey of the work that you are embodying and birthing into the world, I don't think you realize how much power and potentness it has to really bring change for women and liberate them.
Oh, thank you. That means so much to me. And even if I can change the life of one woman,
Mm.
that's, you know, that's amazing for me. So thank you for inviting me, Lily. I've really loved this conversation too. Been really powerful.
It has been. Thank you, gorgeous.
Thank you.